Hey everyone, welcome back here to Vintage Rob 89 here on YouTube, and today we have a very special figure here. I just think this was an essential figure to get, and it is Major Bren Derlin from SAGA Collection 2 from all the way back in 2006. It's hard to believe that 2006 is 13 years ago. And, yeah, I can remember 2006 like yesterday. I was not collecting modern Star Wars at this point. I was in the middle of, actually not the middle, just starting out collecting the vintage stuff from the 70s and 80s. But I did want to army build most recently, since I did complete a set of vintage figures from the 70s and 80s, and I felt like it was essential to get this figure. I was not really too fond of the vintage collection Rebel Soldier, so I wanted to get something that was easy and you didn't have to worry about, and it's Major Bren Derlin. And this is part 2 of the video here. All I could say is that this is a really awesome figure. It's quite rare and quite expensive for being a modern figure. I think I paid $15 to $18 and then plus shipping, so maybe $22, $23, but totally worth the pickup. As you can see, it comes with a stand with its name on it, which is awesome. It has the modern Empire Strikes Back logo, and that's about it. This was at the point when Hasbro was getting crazy with their articulation. This was pretty much what I'd like to call the calm articulation. You do have, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7 points. Okay, so it's not calm. Let's just say it's mediocre, but I really like it. I really like the detailing. It works for the time. This is very collectible in my opinion than a lot of the modern figures out there. And I love the stand and its pose holding its blaster. And a fun fact, this is John Ratzenberger before he hit Cheers. So, yeah, he had a minor role in The Empire Strikes Back. So that is really cool to know. And here's a fun fact. He lives in my town where I am, Milford, Connecticut. So, which is really cool. And I hear he's a really nice guy in real life. He's, doesn't come off as your typical, former, big-time celebrity. But anyways, just an awesome figure. I really like it. I think I made a great decision here. The problem with the Vintage Collection Hoth Soldier, and they even did a re-release now for 2018, which was last year, is that they made the bottom tunic cloth. I did have a cloth tunic that was made out of the same material for the slave Leia. And the problem with the tunic is if tape is wrapped around it in the packaging, it's going to leave residue to stain it over time. Not really good quality control on Hasbro. I had to sell the Leia, and down the road I'm getting the Power of the Jedi Leia because it comes with the little sail barge blaster, which was an important part in Return of the Jedi. So that is why I went for this simple SAGA Collection 2 figure from 2006. And it's just really, really, really cool. There's nothing I could say bad about this figure. So, the other surprise I have for you, we are at 4 minutes and 22 seconds, is I wanted to do a side-by-side comparison. So, give me a second while I put this iPad down. And I'll talk. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I'm just getting ready here for the awesome review that we have. Okay. And here's what we have. This is a 1980-81 Rebel Soldier. And it was funny because back in the 80s, the rebel soldiers, the ones with no mustaches or beards, well, no, they didn't have beards on the figures, they had mustaches, were the soldiers, and the ones with mustaches were the commanders. Now, as you saw in a previous video, is that the 1996-97 Power of the Force 2 rebel soldier, which had a beard, wasn't called commander, it was called soldier. It was kind of the figure for everything. And I think later on they came out with a figure like this for Power of the Force 2, I believe in deluxe packs or whatnot. If it wasn't there, I know I have seen it later in the modern lines, but I'm not going to pick it up because I got Major Bren Derlin, which I really like much better because the sculpt was the same as the Rebel soldier from 1996-97. The only difference is it didn't have a mustache. So that was really it. So, anyways, let's do this side-by-side comparison. So, as you could see, is that, first off, the 1980 version's jacket is a dark brown. Yeah, it's like a caramel brown. Here, it's just a light tan. The detailing, it kind of has that diamond detailing in it. You have it here, but in much different places, as you could see, and we'll try to zoom here. Okay, the gun fell out, but it's not really a big deal. Also, what else do we see here? And we'll show the other side too. It's got the diamond detailing just in different spots. And even the back of its jacket is obviously much different. Now the boots, you could see that a lot has changed. It looks like the boots are much taller in the 2006. The boots are much shorter on the 1980 and 81 version of this figure. What else is going on here? Obviously, there's more detailing on the actual jackets. Obviously, the 2006 version, they painted a holster. They did it on the 1980-81 version, but it's much smaller. What else can we see? The gloves are white, but obviously they're painted and more articulated. Here, it's just a simple mold. Very noticeable differences. Also, the head sculpt. It's got its green goggles on, which is more movie accurate, and it's got a scarf around its hat. We've got black goggles here, and it's not really a scarf, it's kind of a belt that's wrapped around the head. So, as you could see. And obviously the molding colors on kind of the thermal, we'll call it, with the diamond etching is more of a cream color here, and this is more of a light tan. So, obviously noticeable differences again, and you could even tell with not the scarf, but this belt here too, or where the goggles are, you know, a much more darker brown. Everything they did simple on Kenner here. Everything they did simple. They did one color or two colors, and that was it. Even on its insignias and communicators, more movie accurate. Here, it's more of a black color and very simple. You have to remember, this is 1980, 81, so this is almost 40 years ago. But you have to also remember, too, these vintage Star Wars figures were ahead of its time. As I said in the previous video, I like reminding people about it because I love these vintage Star Wars toys, so it's very exciting to see the evolution of these figures evolve and what they do. And I love those soldiers. They've evolved very well compared to a lot of the other characters over the last, you know, almost 40 years with The Empire Strikes Back. Obviously, Blaster Blue, which is a staple in vintage Kenner Star Wars collecting. This blaster over here is more movie accurate, and it seems to be much smaller too. Wow, very small. But, you know, once again, this was almost 40 years ago when this figure came out. Also, the face more flesh tone, movie accurate. Here, it's just a light cream color. Very simple, details. Just the eyes are painted. Here, they put in a pupil, they put in a mustache. So, kind of distinguish that all the rebel soldiers were not clean shaven. In the vintage predecessor, that was not the case. This was a rebel soldier, and the commander had a mustache. That's how it went. Other things I want to see here is, let's look at the back. I know we briefly looked at it. Back. Very noticeable differences. They went out of the way to detail the top of the jacket. There's more of a puffed collar. Here, there's not a puffed collar. It's just a collar. Boots, they have a white trim. Here, no white trim. Now, I know there's many different variations of the rebel soldiers from the 80s where they do have this. I could be wrong. Maybe that's a hard copy, because I know there's hard copies of those. I don't know if any of them exist. I'm pretty sure someone out there who's a little bit more knowledgeable about that, be sure to comment below in the video. And one thing that they didn't have on the modern one, maybe they did. Sorry if I'm moving this iPad. Oh, they didn't. Wow. Is that they have a little wrist communicator etched in. Sorry. Yeah, etched in. Which is kind of ahead of its time for the Kenner. And they don't really have anything etched in on the side of the jacket either. Wow. Wow, so that's interesting. This sculpting, for being ahead of its time, beats some details on here. Not a lot, though. Not a lot. So I'm giving some points here to the vintage one right now, which is great. So, as you could see, also, the jacket kind of goes below its waist on the modern one, which is more movie accurate. Not really here. It seems to be tucked in. Yeah. Or no, you know what? They painted it. That's why they painted it. That's why it looks very different. But this is 1980-81, so what do you expect? You got to give it, because this is the figure that started it all. Copyright dates here. It says, I know I can't pick it up. I'm going to try. 1980, if you could see that. Hong Kong. Here, 2000 and... I can't even show it to you guys. I don't even have a light on this iPad. Yeah, 2006 LFL. So, and they had the LFL on the vintage one too. So, yeah. Try to get that out for you guys. Okay, there we go. 2006 LFL. Actually, no, I'm really wrong. 2005. So, wow, they made this a year ahead. And then there's the Hasbro in China. The one thing that differentiates each other from the vintage and the modern are the peg holes. These peg holes are much smaller on the modern, much bigger on the vintage. So, but you could still put them together with the vintage or modern. You just need to get figure stands. They're not really that expensive. You could get them on eBay. The one thing that I don't have pictured here with the modern, and I'm going to paste the link below at the video, is that to sell the Saga figures, they came with like a little hologram figurine, maybe 2 inches tall, maybe 2.5 inches tall. I don't have that with me. I packed it away in storage so it wouldn't get lost. But I'm going to send you a link of the figure. And also it has more high quality photos of this too, because I think you should really pick it up. If you want to add an extra figure to your vintage stuff or army build, or if you're into modern. But yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the modern figure over here. And also... to go on these, and I have one more soldier to show you. But These figures, very common, these vintage Rebel soldiers, but the problem is a lot of paint wear. This is the best that I could get. I think I paid 22 bucks for it, free shipping. I can't complain. The weapon was original. Sometimes you could get them much cheaper, but yeah, Empire Strikes Back figures were very popular from in 80 and 81. So here's another little surprise we have. I'm not doing a review on the Tauntaun here, unfortunately. Sorry, guys, but this is an original Tauntaun. I like to say 1979. So this is already 40 years old, but technically it came out in 1980. They started working on this in 79. But we'll say, we'll make it sound cool. We'll say 1979 here, because you'll see it under its foot. So it's already 40 years old. But here we have another Rebel soldier. Now, I'm not going to take it out because I don't want to damage anything on here. But as you could see, the face colors are different. This is more of a skin tone here. This is more of a pink skin tone, as you can see. Now, everything is the same here. The boots are the same. I believe maybe the color's a little bit darker. I'm not going to pull it out. Data stamp is the same. You know, this is as close as they could get to real-life skin tone colors in 1980. More of a light, yeah, pink. So, and that's the other thing with vintage collecting. People collect variations. Some are more expensive than others, and some aren't. This is a clean example of this. Once again, in the same price range, $22. You could get this. Sometimes it's cheaper. And the gun here is original as well. So all in all, the Rebel Soldier figure is a staple in Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and the whole universe and toy form. It's been legendary since its release back in 1980 and 81. These are popular for kids back then, almost 40 years ago, and they are just as popular today. Really cool thing, I want to go into the Tauntaun really quickly. You can see I'm handling it very slowly. I'm not going to go into quickly. If you are looking to buy a Tauntaun, make sure the reins are not split. It looks like something that's going to unfortunately happen, and we can't stop. You know, these toys have lasted as long as I think they can, and way past their lifespan. But if you're looking to get a Tauntaun, it'll be more valuable with the reins. I have the original box downstairs, so this original Tauntaun brings about 75 to 100 bucks. Someone may charge it more because of the reins. They're rubberized, so you don't want to mess with this. Maybe there'll be somebody out there who'll come with a retro saddle and reins. I think we might need that, because there's a lot of Tauntauns out there that should be saved. That's just me. I know it's frowned upon. Anyways, we're going 18 minutes on the video here. So final words. Pick all of this up. The figures. Major Bren Derlin, this modern version of a Rebel Soldier. Just all great. All 10 out of 10 here. Classics. Never had anything wrong with them. The only thing I'm going to throw, I'm just going to say it because we're hitting the 20-minute mark anyways, is unfortunately, you can't really see it, but if you notice on your vintage figures, some light fissures, it's not a crack. If it is, it is. Just make sure the limbs aren't loose. It has to do with the manufacturing back then. It kind of scared me. Because I've upgraded my vintage figures a few times over the years before I completed the set. But it's one of those things that's inevitably going to happen, even if you get it AFA graded. Once again, just make sure the arm isn't loose, but if it isn't, don't move the arm too much. And if it's got good paint, pick it up, because that's what collectors care about. And make sure the weapon's original too, unless you're not planning on selling it. But anyways, that is it. This is the 2006 Major Bren Derlin figure from the SAGA Collection. I like to say SAGA Collection too, because people might get confused if it's part from the 2002 to 2004 SAGA Collection. It's not. I believe the SAGA Collection here too went to 2006, 2007. I could be wrong. But pick up all of these. That's my final words here. And I won't be putting Saga 2 in the title. You know what? Maybe I will. Yeah, I'll do that. So it differentiates the wave that this figure came from. But pick it up. They're both legendary. All these figures are legendary, and even the Tauntaun here. So those are my final words, and thank you for watching.